Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. My name is Jack and today is a very special episode. We have every single LEGO Jedi minifigure ever made. This collection equals 127 minifigs. And we've got all the Lukes here, we've got all the Obi-Wans, and all of the Anakins. They actually equal more than half of the collection already, and the rest are these Jedis here. So we've done episodes on all of the Lukes and Obi-Wans and Anakins, and this episode is going to primarily focus on the rest of the guys over here. There were a lot of you out there requesting this video, and we do appreciate all of the collection suggestions, and I assure you that we are working on quite a few more collections, some of which are popular in the comment section, and we're also working on some other collections that we just really want to get. I'm going to go through the progression of when all of these minifigs were released, what sets they came out in, and sometimes how much they're worth. And when appropriate, I will do sort of an overview of the Luke, Obi-Wan, and Anakin collections, but just to preface, this episode will be mainly focused on these minifigs here. They equal 50 minifigs in total, and they're definitely the most interesting and diverse group of minifigs I've had a chance to review so far. Alright, I hope that was enough of an introduction for everybody, and now let's get into the actual collection review. So we've had a couple of very popular minifig characters created a bunch, and the next most popular guy is Qui-Gon Jinn. He came out in 5 sets, the first one being Lightsaber Duel, set number 7101. He's got brown pants and a tan torso piece with some pretty simple detailing in his robes. It shows a lot of folds and a belt. It's actually the same torso piece that showed up on a couple of Obi-Wan minifigs too. He's got a pretty appropriate looking hairpiece and comes with a brown cape. This one here is pretty tattered. The detailing is pretty simple, but let's move on up to 2002. And this one here is our first iteration of Yoda. He came out in the set Jedi Duel, set number 7103. He has a pretty simple rubber head. The mold is pretty good, but there is no printed detailing on the face. And it's interesting to note that this is the first minifig that came out with short legs. He's got printing on both the front and back of his torso, and it shows a small belt, some wrinkled clothes, and a necklace with a medallion on it. And I like this Yoda, but I think you'll see later that his head definitely improves over time. This next guy here is kind of one of my favorite Jedis, and that's because he isn't any specific character. He's actually just called Jedi Knight, a very funny kind of goofy or friendly looking Jedi buddy. I'll just call him Jedi Jim. Jedi Jim came out in the set Republic Gunships, set number 7163. He's got brown legs, a gray torso piece, and a brown cape and hood. The printing on the torso piece is pretty darn similar to quite a few other Jedi ones, but I think that shape for the belt buckle is actually unique, which makes this a unique print. Also, I think this is the only Jedi printing that came on a gray torso piece. And believe it or not, this Jedi Jim is actually a bit rare and uncommon for being so old and only coming out in one set, and he could go for about $15 on BrickLink. A very cool minifig, and Jedi Jim just kind of seems like your cool Jedi uncle. There were no new Jedi minifigs for a couple of years, and then we got 2 new ones in 2005. These are our first versions of Luminaria Unduli and Mace Windu. Luminaria came out in the set Wookiee Catamaran, set number 7260, and Mace Windu came out in the set Clone Turbo Take, set number 7261. But you'll notice something different about their hands and lightsabers, and these are the light up saber minifigs. These minifigs are both a bit rare and have some technical parts to them. Getting either of them in good condition where they actually work, I'd say these minifigs are both worth roughly $25. The heads and legs don't come off, and they've actually got a couple of watch batteries inside. And when you turn off the lights and press their heads down, this happens. It's a pretty nice function. It's kind of a cool idea from LEGO, but they only made 5 of these light up minifigs, 4 of which were Jedi. And now that we have all 5 of them, I can finally light all of them up together at the same time. Apologies if some of these sabers look dim. I did just change out all of the batteries, but sometimes the camera doesn't pick them up quite right, and frankly some of these colors just shine brighter than others. Really cool set of minifigs, nothing like them before and probably nothing like them after. And apologies for Darth Vader. This is a Jedi collection and he is out of here. But if we move on down the line, we get to 2006 and there's only 1 new minifig, and he hardly even looks new. He's the same Mace Windu as before, except this time in true minifig form. And this minifig is a bit rare. He comes out to $15 roughly on BrickLink. And he's got his purple saber and chrome hilt. Also, this guy's cape is in much better condition than the last one. And he also came out in the set Clone Turbo Tank 7261. And for the next few years, LEGO will release a slow trickle of new Jedi minifigs each year, and so here are the 2 new ones in 2007. Here is our new version of Qui-Gon Jinn, and he came out in the set Republic Cruiser 7665. He's wearing all tan this time. The printing for the robes is pretty simple, and this same torso piece can also be found on Obi-Wan minifigs. He's got a brown hood and cape, and of course you can see that he is flesh colored now as opposed to yellow. But his face printing is still the same as when he was a yellow figure. Our second minifig of 2007 is Kit Fisto. He came out in 2 sets. One is Jedi Starfighter with booster rings, set number 7661, and ARC 170 Starfighter, set number 8088. And the head mold for this guy is really awesome. It's a bit rubbery so you can move his head tentacles around, and it's probably one of the cooler LEGO headpieces you can find. The printing on the torso piece looks pretty good, but I think the torso printing has been on an Anakin fig before with a slightly different color combo. But the shape of the belt buckle is definitely different. And you can also see they're starting to introduce gray lightsaber hilts instead of the chrome ones. Very cool minifig. Let's check out the next 2 from 2008. And this is our very first version of Ahsoka. The first set she came out in was ATTE Walker, set number 7675, and she also came out in 4 other sets as well as a Comic-Con display set. And I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of this minifig, just because I really think they skimped out on the back printing. If they did back printing for Yoda in 2002, I think they could have done it for Ahsoka in 2008. So it looks a little bit awkward to not see the wrap on the front part of her torso go all the way around. And on top of that, I think the front torso printing is a little bit weak. They made outlines for the hips and put no negative space there, but then decided to put some black negative space around the wrap. So it's just a little bit inconsistent. On the plus side though, the printing for the face is very good, and that mold for the headpiece is also really nice. I just think the printing detail for this fig was a little bit weak even for this year. We also got another new Jedi with another awesome alien print. Here is Plo Koon. He came out in the sets Republic Attack Gunship 7676 and Plo Koon Starfighter 8093. The alien headpiece is pretty funky looking. The back of the head has some sort of indent. I'm not sure if that's really supposed to be how his head is shaped, or if that's just an imprint the machine leaves in the mold. Based on how it kind of gouges in there, I think it's the latter, but it's actually not too distracting. It's generally a really good head mold. Also rubbery and flexible. He's got a unique chest printing and slightly lighter brown arms, and generally a pretty complete minifig. Moving on up to 2009, we get 2 new minifigs, but neither of these guys are actually new Jedis that we haven't seen yet. Here's Yoda. He came out in 2 sets. One is Armored Assault Tank AAT, set number 8018, and Republic Frigate, set number 7964. And if you show him next to the original Yoda, his head mold is much better, though our guy is definitely missing a bit of paint on the hair. Everything about the head is better, I think. I don't believe it's actually as accurate to Yoda's face as the original, but I like that they exaggerated his features a bit. And this head is of course to match up closer to what Yoda looks like in the Clone Wars series, and probably the only version of Clone Wars faces that I actually like in LEGO. And speak of the devil, here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Our second minifig in 2009 is our updated Mace Windu, and there's just something a little bit strange to me to see the Clone Wars art style printed onto a LEGO minifig head. I'm just so used to seeing the LEGO printed art style on the faces that when I see something different, it really throws me for a loop. Honestly, I don't think it's bad printing at all. I'm just not used to seeing it. Other than that, he's a good minifig. It's very simple detailing on the torso piece, and his body is all dark tan, which is something unique for Mace Windu. No other Jedis have just dark tan bodies. You may have also noticed that the lightsaber hilts have now turned metallic, and from here on out the hilts on the lightsabers don't change. Alright, let's move on up to 2010, and we get 3 brand new Jedi characters. Let's check out this first guy, Nadar Veb. He came out in the set General Grievous Starfighter, set number 8095. His Mon Calamari headpiece is really nicely molded, and he has some very simple but appropriate printing on that piece. Really good headpiece, and it totally makes it for the figure. And Nadar himself has a custom printed chest piece, which shows some robes there in the front, and there's even some robes in the back. I'm really glad that we got a Mon Calamari in Jedi form. Here's our second one of 2010, we've got Barriss Offee. She came out in the set Republic Swamp Speeder, set number 8091. And this is actually a really good looking minifig. She is all black with a black hood and cape, and has some tannish or slightly yellowish looking skin. The printing for the face is really nice, and I really like that detailing for the torso. It's very subtle coloration, but it looks pretty good. The one thing that doesn't really match up is that the belt goes from one end to the other end of the torso piece, while it doesn't really match up with the negative space that show her hips. Kind of like she's got a giant belt that just kind of rests around her waist. But that's an extremely minute detail to point out. Altogether, a really awesome fig. And the last minifig of 2010 is probably one of my favorites in the whole collection. She came out in the set Clone Turbo Tank 8098, and this is a really nicely detailed minifig. She's got the one brown arm that's supposed to match up with the covering on her top. She's also wearing brown pants and has this really awesome headpiece. It shows that she's wearing some sort of head covering, and it seems to be strapped around her little Twi'lek head tentacle things. But they generally look really cool. The printing on the face is really nice, and this is a very unique minifig. So unique, in fact, when you look her up on BrickLink, the minimum buy price in the States as a complete figure is $28. But there's lots of people trying to sell used versions of her in the mid-30s. Definitely a pretty cool and pretty rare figure to have. Alright, and before we move on, let's take a look at the Luke Skywalkers. There are 31 of these guys, and he makes up almost exactly 1/4 of the entire Jedi collection. This pilot Luke here was the first guy, and he was actually the very first licensed Star Wars minifigure ever made. There are quite a few pilot and Tatooine Lukes, as well as a few specialty Lukes, but there are a ton of Lukes from Return of the Jedi. The two most expensive Lukes you can get are Dagobah Luke for $30, and Cloud City Luke for roughly $80. Anyways, if you want to check out the progression of just Luke, I've organized that episode and how he progresses throughout episodes 4, 5, and 6. So I'll leave a link for that if you want to check it out, but let's move on to 2011. And this is when Jedi figs have really spiked upwards, because in 2011 we got 8 new Jedi minifigures, and more than half of them are actually new Jedi that we haven't had yet. But let's start off with the characters that have evolved. So here is Yoda, and gee, I can't quite figure out what's changed about this guy. He looks exactly like he always does, right? This Santa Yoda came out in the Star Wars Advent Calendar, set number 7958, and he's got a pretty nice Santa torso piece and red little legs, as well as a little cane and a satchel with some presents in it. He's got the same headpiece as the updated one that you saw before, though this time the hair is in a little bit better condition. Our next updated guy is Qui-Gon Jinn, and the torso piece is nice and updated, with some really nice robe detailing and a really nice belt print. And if you're wondering if this torso piece is shared with any other minifig, then the answer is yes, he shares it with Obi-Wan once again. And now that I think about it, every single torso piece that Qui-Gon Jinn has is also shared with Obi-Wan. He goes for around $12 on BrickLink, and he came out in the set Darth Maul's Sith Infiltrator set number 7961. But he has this updated face now that looks a lot better. Let's check out the last of the updated Jedis. We've got another Luminaria. She came out in the Battle for Geonosis set number 7869. She's got the same headpiece that she wore back in 2005. That still looks good, but the updated printing for the body is much better. Before, the printing on her body was almost just a silhouette, and now you can see some nice robes with medallion, and I really like how the cloth is printed onto her legs. A little bit odd that there's no printing on the back, and she has a much better updated face. One side shows her blue eyes and the other one has some goggles on. This Luminaria is also a bit rare, and she goes for around $12 on BrickLink. And next up here is Shakti from the set Jedi Shuttle number 7931. And this minifigure is also high up on my list for being one of the best, mostly because she has this really awesome head mold. The shape of it is really nice, and it's a bit rubbery so it can bend. I think she's a Togruta, but don't quote me on that, I haven't actually checked. But you can see it is just a much bigger and more elaborate headpiece from the same species as Ahsoka. Yeah, so it is Togruta. But let's take it off for a second just so you can see the printing on the chest piece. It is pretty simple. It shows a little bit of negative space and a couple of golden lines on her robes. You can also see some printing that shows some skin and a belt buckle. And there's also some very nice printing for the face that matches up just right with the headpiece. Awesome minifig, really great to have her. And she's a little bit rare, coming in at around $12 again on BrickLink. Here's another new guy, Quinlan Vos. He came out in the set Republic Frigate 7964. He's got some really nice printing for the chest piece on the front and back, and I really like the printing for the face. I like that yellow stripe and his not so happy expression. Our next guy came from the same set, and he is Eth Koth. And both this minifig and the last guy are around $10. He's got some very simple detailing on the chest piece. It looks like a simplified version of other Jedi minifig prints, but he has a very interesting looking headpiece. You can see some hair tied off in the front and a ponytail in the back, and he's got a lot of spikes sticking out the front of his head. I believe this makes him an Iridonian. And he also has these lines that go through his face. A very interesting looking fig, but these last guys also have some awesome headpieces. Here is Saesee Tiin, and he came out in 2 sets. One was the T6 Jedi Shuttle, set number 7931, and the other one was Saesee Tiin's Jedi Starfighter, 9498. Some relatively simple printing for the torso piece, though I think it is slightly unique. He's got a different style of belt buckle and a couple of accessories. But once again, what makes this fig is the cool face and the awesome alien headpiece that goes along with it. The face itself looks pretty darn intimidating, but maybe not as intimidating as those 2 giant horns. I believe this type of alien is called Iktachi, and the headpiece itself has some really good printing. I really like how these orange dots kind of fade into the darker skin tone. And this is Ki-Adi Munduni from the set Geonosian Starfighter number 7959. The printing for the torso on the front is pretty simple, but I do like the wrinkle printing for the hood in the back. And I can't help but think this guy reminds me a bit of the Coneheads. I think they did a decent job on the mold. The head does kind of bulge a bit at the top, and there are these rivets in the back. And I like how there's printing on the back of the head that show more indentations on the head. You can see he has a bit of a ponytail and a scruffy beard, as well as some large eyebrows. 2011 gave us a lot of really cool minifigs, We definitely got a lot more this year than any of the previous years. But before we move on to 2012, let's take a look at all of the Obi-Wans. I believe there are 25 Obi-Wans altogether, and it makes sense that there are so many. Not only are there a bunch of versions of him from episode 4, but we've also got him from episodes 1, 2, and 3, as well as versions from him in the Clone Wars. That being said, the minifig does look considerably less diverse than all the Luke Skywalkers. At least Luke goes through a few more different outfits. Aside from a few outlier minifigs when he's in the Clone Wars, he is pretty much all tan, sometimes with a brown hood or cape and sometimes not. Here's the very first Obi-Wan, and this is the last Obi-Wan, at least most recent for the old Obi-Wans. And I do like that they finally switched to having just a brown torso piece and printing for robes on the legs. We made an episode that follows the progression of all the Obi-Wan minifigs if you want to check that out. That's all I've got to say about Obi-Wan for now, except for one more thing, and that is that I really hope they make a transparent blue ghost version of Obi-Wan like you see him in Dagobah. Alright, let's move on to 2012, and just like the last year we got another 8 new minifigs. And of the 8, only 3 of them are actually new Jedis that we haven't had yet. So let's check out the updated versions first. And this first guy here is the latest version of Mace Windu from the set Palpatine's Arrest, set number 9526. And if you look at him next to the Clone Wars Mace Windu, the body is exactly the same, and the only thing that changes is his face. It's a pretty simple minifig printed face, and he also comes with a brown cape this time. Not that big of an update, but let's move on to Qui-Gon Jinn. And here he is from the set Gungan Sub 9499. And this Qui-Gon Jinn minifig actually goes for around $15 on BrickLink. You can see that torso piece is the same as the one he had before, and he has a slight smile as his secondary expression. Also not that huge of a difference, but let's move on down. Here is a brand new Kit Fisto. And by brand new, I mean nearly exactly the same. The only difference is his updated green lightsaber, instead of that neon green trans yellow lightsabers that they all used to have. And this time he's got a cape. And this Kit Fisto came from Palpatine's Arrest set number 9526 also, and he goes for around $10. And our next minifig is the new Barriss Offee, and she made some nice improvements. The body is still black, but this time she has a dark blue hood and a very short dark blue cape. The printing for the face is updated, and the printing on the body looks a lot better. The belt buckle detailing is updated and better, and I noticed that they also cut off the edges of the belt, which is something I was complaining about before. She came in the set Geonosian Canon, set number 9491. So yeah, good on LEGO for making these changes. They were very subtle, but I think they make all the difference. Our last of the updated minifigs here is Saesee Tiin. The legs and torso are the same as the previous one, though this time his arms are brown too. And this minifig also came in the set Palpatine's Arrest with the others. The headpiece that shows off his horns is the same exact one as before, but that printing for the face is definitely updated, and I like that they carried over the orange spots to change the tone of his skin. Also, the face just looks a lot more accurate. Alright, now for the 3 new minifigs of 2012, from that same set once again is Agen Kolar. And he's a really good looking minifig. He has his own unique printing on his torso piece, and some decent printing for the face. You can also see the headpiece is the same mold as Eeth Koth, except the printing on it is a little bit darker to match his skin tone. And by the way, this guy on BrickLink goes for around $20. Palpatine's Arrest had a lot of exclusive minifigs. Here is Evan Peel. He too also came out in Saesee Tiin's Jedi Starfighter. The printing on the torso piece is new, and of course matches that of the character, and he has a really good printing for the face. He's got a bit of a droopy mouth, some jowls, and a scar going across one eye. And when you put the headpiece on, that scar goes all the way up the forehead. This headpiece also makes his head a bit bigger, and his ears a lot bigger, and he has this interesting hairstyle that goes through the center of his head, sort of like a mohawk. And when you take a look at the back of his head, the pin that holds his hair together actually has a tiny little smiley face on it if you look closely. He kind of reminds me of what Dobby might look like if he became a battle-hardened Jedi. And our last minifig of 2012 is Satele Shan. She comes from Republic Striker class Starfighter, set number 9497, and the printing on her body is probably some of the better detailing that you can get on a minifig. There's a lot of well-placed gold and silver reflective detailing on the body, as well as this underlying level of gray. She's got a pretty heavy-duty utility belt with a nice big buckle in the middle. She's got 2 expressions, one is a smile with a raised eyebrow, and the other one is her battle face. She also comes with this very long hairpiece, and I especially like her double-sided blue lightsaber. Alright, we've knocked out 2012, we've had a few more repeats this year, but before we move on to the year 2013, that is our biggest year of receiving new Jedi minifigs, let's take a look at this Anakin Skywalker collection. Here we have 21 Anakins, and what I really like about these guys is that LEGO did a great job showing the slow progression of Anakin turning to the dark side. As a technicality, some of these Anakins are versions of him in episode 3 when he has been dubbed Darth Vader already, like Mustafar Anakin and Emperor Palpatine's shuttle Anakin, but he's not really the classic Darth Vader Sith Lord that everybody knows him as yet. so I'm still going to count him as a Jedi in this collection. And this collection has a somewhat decent amount of diversity as well. He's the only LEGO character that you get to see actually grow up from being a child. Once again, just repeating myself, we did make a video on this collection, and if you want to learn more about the progression of all these Anakin figs, you can check out the link. But alright, enough of that, let's move on to 2013. This is where 10 minifigs came out. That is the biggest year for getting new Jedi minifigs. 6 of them are brand new characters, and 4 of them are updates. And of the updates, we've got 2 new Yodas. This first one here is nearly identical to the previous one. The only differences are the lines in his robes. Here they actually look like wrinkles, where the previous one kind of looked like stripes, and his inner shirt is a little bit lighter. But other than that, no difference. And here is the newest version of Yoda. He goes back to being bald, and it's actually a lot more similar to the original Yoda head than it is to any others. It almost looks like it's just a slightly bigger version of this mold, but the head is a little bit more round and the ears are wider. He also has printing to show some eyes, but the best part is they actually got the color right. This finally actually looks like Yoda's skin. The robe detailing is updated a little bit, not much different from the previous ones, maybe just a little bit less colorful. So yes, this is the most realistic looking Yoda minifig, but I still do really like the older version. The rubber is softer and you can play with his ears more. This latest Yoda appeared in the set Duel on Geonosis, set number 75017, but has gone on to appear in a few more sets, including the most recent Homing Spider Droid set. But anyways, moving on to the final Mace Windu. He came out in the set ATTE 75019, and the only difference between him and the previous Mace Windu is that he lost the cape and he now has white legs with robe printing instead of just plain dark tan legs. So yeah, not a huge difference, but he still does have a cool purple lightsaber. And our last updated figure for 2013 probably shows the most improvement. This is Ahsoka, and she came out in 2 sets, Umbaran Mobile Heavy Cannon, set number 75013, and Coruscant Police Gunship, set number 75046. The printing on the body is way updated and looks a lot better than the original. I really like the printing on the legs, but if you look on up to the headpiece, the printing has been updated, the blue stripes are much darker now, and Ahsoka has 2 updated expressions. One is kind of a scheming smile, and the other one looks a bit determined or ready to fight. And this time she also comes with 2 lightsabers instead of just 1. This character has definitely had a huge improvement. But moving on to the new ones. Here is a Zabrak Jedi Knight. He came out in the set Jedi Defender Class Cruiser, set number 75025, and he is a very good looking minifig. The torso and leg printing is totally custom, and it shows some pretty nice armor and cloth printed detailing. He's got some pretty nice printing for the face, and he's got this awesome horned headpiece that goes around the top. It's basically just a small extension to the head that also shows horns. And this Zabrak Jedi Knight was exclusive to this set, so the lowest price you can get him for on BrickLink is $16. Cool minifig, really glad to have him, and in that same set we also got another new one, the Jedi Consular. And this is also a very good looking minifig. She has the same headpiece as Luminaria, except this time it is white, and she's got some really cool detailing that shows off this white body armor. Seems to have a lot of mechanical detailing and some cool gold highlights. She has olive green skin and these blue eyes. Usually when it is this classic LEGO art and they have blue eyes, at least in the Jedi world, this means they have a lot of force power in them. That is a specific reference to Jek 14. And by the way, Jek 14 is not in this list, because he's already in our Every Single Clone Trooper episode. But I guess he is in the video now because I just mentioned him, but he's not part of the final count. Pretty much all the minifigs in this set were exclusive, so the Jedi Consular goes for a minimum of about $12. Our next Jedi here isn't really a Jedi, but I couldn't think of any other collection that she'd be closer to fitting into than this one. So here she is in the Jedi collection, the Padawan Girl. She came out in the Yoda Chronicles press kit, and she looks pretty simple. She's got a pretty simple minifig face, and that torso piece is actually one of Anakin Skywalker's. But because she came out in the Yoda Chronicles promotional set, she's actually a very expensive minifig. She's about $17 or $18. Though the only exclusive part that I think actually belongs to her are these dark tan short legs. Kind of a strange minifig to have, but let's check out this really cool guy here. We have Pong Krell. You might notice immediately that there is something a little bit different about this guy. He's a bit taller and he's got 4 arms. He also carries 2 sets of double lightsabers. Definitely a formidable looking opponent, but they did a pretty good job detailing this guy. The custom molded top torso piece looks great all the way around. I especially like how they raised up that little area for the soul patch, and the printing on the main torso and legs is actually custom and new also. I'm not sure if we're ever going to get another version of Pong Krell in LEGO, and I'm glad that there was some effort that went into making him look good, even though he's not so good. Alright, let's move on to the next new Jedi. We've got Stas Ali from the set Homing Spider Droid 75016. The leg and torso piece has custom printing. It shows a few extra folds in the clothes, and I think it looks pretty good. She has a custom printed headpiece that shows her tentacle hair, and it generally looks good, but I think they should have speckled that darker printing on the forehead to kind of fade into the lighter tan in the back. I thought that effect worked pretty well with Saesee Tin, and because they don't do it here, it looks like that front piece is something like a crown and not actually part of her head. Generally though, a cool minifig, and I like those purple eyes. Our last new minifig is Coleman Trebor from the set ATTE 75019. This is the same set that had the most recent Mace Windu. The printing on the torso piece is incredibly close to that of some Obi-Wan torso pieces, but it's changed up just enough to be a custom print. And that's besides the fact that you can see some gray printed on the chest. They did change the robes ever so slightly. And like so many of these Jedi minifigs, the main focal point is the strange weird head. I just looked him up, he is a Verk alien, and I don't really know what this head looks closer to. And right before we finish up 2013, there's actually one more minifig here that we technically don't have, and that is the I Heart New York Yoda minifig. He was part of a promo cube at the New York Toy Fair giveaway, but rest assured he is on our list and we will get him shortly. Okay, that was a lot of minifigs for one year, and there's not nearly as many for 2014. In this year there were 5 new minifigs, 2 of which are updated minifigs and 3 which are brand new characters. For updates, we have a new Qui-Gon Jinn. He came out in the set MTT, set number 75058. He also goes for about $15 on BrickLink. You can see the torso is not yet updated, but this time there is printing that goes onto the brown legs. It elongates some of the robes and it looks a bit better. He's got a cape as always and a brown hairpiece, and what's different about him is this other expression. He has the one content face that I think we've seen before, but on the other side he has a raised eyebrow and looks a bit curious. And other than that, I think that is the only difference. And our second updated minifig is Plo Koon. He came out in the set Republic AV7 Anti-Vehicle Cannon, set number 75045. The head mold seems to look the same, but I think it's actually made of a slightly harder material. Not quite as rubbery or bouncy as the original. They also updated his torso just a little bit. Not a huge difference there, but I do think it looks a little better. Alright, these are the 3 new figs for 2014. Let's start with one of my favorite classic alien figures. This is the Ithorian Jedi Master. This guy came out in the set Jedi Scout Fighter 75051. This guy usually goes for around $10. You first see this guy in the Mos Eisley Cantina from the very first Star Wars Episode 4, and it's kind of cool that they made him a Jedi figure now. I didn't know that their bodies were human-like, you can't really see in that scene, but then again, every alien creature seems to evolve the same way in this galaxy. Standing upright on 2 legs with 2 arms, usually, and a weird-looking head. But speaking of which, the mold for this head is really nice. The printing is pretty simple, but I don't think it needs to be much different, and from the looks of it, this guy looks like a bit more of a ragged Jedi Master. His robes seem a little bit loosely tucked in, and they're not tattered, but maybe a little bit ruffled. Cool minifig, I like him a lot, and I really do hope we get a Rodian Jedi Master sometime. Here is Kanan Jarrus. He came out in the sets The Ghost 75053 and Wookiee Gunship 75084, and also in that more recent set with Kanan's speeder bike. The detailing for his body is pretty good. He's got the one darker green arm to match his armor on his front and back, and there's some good detailing for the utility belt, and even some printing on the legs. In the Ghost set, he came with both a lightsaber and a blaster rifle. He also has 2 expressions. One looks pretty plain, and the other has a small smile with a raised eyebrow. And if Kanan's the other new Jedi minifigure for this year, then you might be able to guess this last one for 2014. We have Ezra Bridger. He came out in the set The Phantom 75048, and in this version he doesn't have a lightsaber, but instead just a blaster pistol, and actually a pretty cool looking helmet. It kind of reminds me of V for Vendetta, but definitely looks good. His torso piece shows the furry vest, and he has some decent printing on his legs as well. And for the last year in 2015, we got 4 minifigs. And let's knock out these 2 updated minifigs really quick. This is Qui-Gon Jinn from the Sith Infiltrator, set number 75096. The torso and leg pieces are the same as the previous guy, but this time he now has a poncho. His expressions are also slightly updated. One expression he is frowning quite a bit, and the other one he can't help but smile. That actually does kind of have a Liam Neeson kind of expression to it. And even though he came out recently, this minifigure is like $25. If they release this guy again in another set in a year or 2 from now, hopefully that price would go down. And our last Jedi minifig from the year 2015 is another Ezra Bridger. He came out in the set Ezra's Speeder Bike 75090. This time Ezra doesn't have a helmet and just this black hairpiece, but now he has his lightsaber. And I really like that they use that binocular piece as the handle. Seems pretty appropriate. But other than that, he is pretty much the exact same figure. Same expressions, but I guess he also comes with a wrench this time. And here's our last new Jedi, of which we got 2 versions. Technically Rey isn't a Jedi yet, but if Padawan Girl made the list, then Rey definitely deserves to be here too. Rey was part of the Force Friday release in early September 2015, and on that day she came out in 2 different sets. One was the Millennium Falcon, set number 75105, and the other was Rey's Speeder 75099. The body and face of this minifig are the same in both sets, but what makes them different are the accessories that they came with. Rey in the Millennium Falcon set has this nice hairpiece here and a metallic blaster pistol. The detailing on the body is very intricate. You can see some crisscross robes going over her shirt, and she has a simple belt. Rey has 2 expressions. One is a pretty neutral face with her mouth turned up ever so slightly, and the other one definitely looks a little bit more angry or determined. But definitely the cooler version of Rey came from the speeder bike set, and that's because she's got some things that are a little bit more specific to her character. She comes with an A satchel piece, as well as her staff, but the best part is her makeshift mask. This piece is a very highly detailed mold. Not only is the shape of the mold really great, I like that they added that little side flashlight, but the printing on the goggles is also very finely detailed. And with Rey as the last minifig here, we've actually just finished the entire collection review. Still, of course, not including Luke, Obi-Wan, and Anakin. So here are the 50 minifigs we just went through. It's a very fun and diverse group of minifigs, and it's really awesome seeing all these kind of weird different alien heads all together. But what's even more awesome is seeing all of these Jedis together. It's great to see the transformation of some of these main characters, and I really like how LEGO went deep into the Star Wars universe to get as many Jedi minifigs as they could. Granted, the Star Wars universe is a big one and it is not going anywhere, so you can be sure that there are going to be plenty of new Jedis to get in the future, and we are going to keep on getting them. So that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching, and if you guys have any ideas about what kind of collections you want to see us do next, you can let us know in the comment section below. We'll try to get that done for you. No promises it's going to be a bigger collection than this one. This is kind of huge, and it was kind of a big project for us to get it done. But it was a lot of fun. We really like doing these episodes for you guys. And if you want to learn anything more about the Lukes or Obi-Wans or Anakins, we'll leave links in the description for you. But other than that, if you enjoy our content, feel free to subscribe, and we will see you next time at BrickVault.